The screen door slammed like a gunshot in the sticky July heat, and Jordan's world cracked open right there on the sagging porch of the family farmhouse in rural Ohio. "You're dead to us, Jordan Marie. Pack your shit and get off our land before I call the sheriff." Her father's voice, gravelly from 40 years of chain-smoking camels, sliced through the humid air. His face twisted not in rage but something worse, disgust, like she'd dragged the devil himself home for Sunday pot roast. And just like that, the girl who'd spent 28 summers chasing fireflies in that backyard was exiled, her duffel bag thumping against the gravel as she stumbled toward the old gravel road, the weight of her family's Bible-thumping judgment heavier than the storm clouds rolling in from Lake Erie. Jordan wiped the sweat, or was it tears, from her cheek with the back of her hand, the calluses from her construction job rough against her skin. She'd known this was coming, deep in her gut like the rumble of thunder on the horizon. Last Christmas, when she'd finally mustered the courage to bring Elena home, the air had thickened faster than her mom's gravy. Whispers behind closed doors, her brother's sideways glares over the turkey mark, the golden boy, 25 and fresh out of community college, already anointed heir to the family legacy. But saying it out loud, that was a blade to the throat. She hitched her bag higher on her shoulder and started walking, the cicadas screaming their indifferent symphony as the first fat raindrops splattered the dust. 2 miles down County Road 17, headlights pierced the gathering dusk like a lifeline. Elena's rusty Ford pickup rattled to a stop, gravel crunching under the tires, and there she was, leaping out before the engine even died. Her work boots splashing through puddles, flannel shirt already darkening with rain. "Baby. Oh God. What happened?" Elena's voice cracked, her hazel eyes wide with that fierce protectiveness that always made Jordan feel like she could outrun a tornado. 30 years old, with curves that filled out her Levi's just right and a laugh that could melt the frost off a February windshield, Elena was the kind of woman who'd fix Jordan's heart long before she'd ever touched her body. They met 2 years back at a dive bar in Toledo, Jordan nursing a Bud Light after a brutal day framing houses, Elena slinging drinks with a wink, and a shot of tequila that tasted like rebellion. Jordan collapsed into her arms, the rain mixing with sobs she couldn't hold back. They gave it all to Mark. The house, the land, everything. Said, "I'm not family anymore. Not after us." The words choked out, bitter as black coffee. Elena held her tighter, one hand stroking those wild curls that framed Jordan's sharp cheekbones, the other rubbing circles on her back. "Fuck 'em, Jordan. You're my family now. We'll figure this out. My couch is yours till kingdom come." That night, they holed up in Elena's cramped apartment above a laundromat in the shadow of the Maumee River. The kind of place where the walls were thin enough to hear the neighbors' arguments and the air smelled faintly of dryer sheets and regret. Elena brewed chamomile tea, her abuela's recipe. She always said, and they sat cross-legged on the thrift store futon, knees touching like an anchor. Jordan spilled it all, the way her dad had pulled her aside that afternoon, Bible in hand, quoting Leviticus like it was an eviction notice. He said, "Loving you makes me an abomination. Like I'm some kind of curse on the bloodline." Her voice trembled, fists clenched in her lap. Elena listened, those full lips pressed into a line, her olive skin glowing under the harsh fluorescent light. She was a welder by trade, hands scarred from sparks and steel, but gentle as a summer breeze when she cupped Jordan's face. "You're not a curse, mi amor. You're a goddamn miracle." Elena leaned in, their foreheads touching, breaths mingling in the steam from the mugs. The kiss that followed was slow, deliberate, a reclaiming. Jordan tasted salt from her own tears, sweetness from Elena's lip balm that smelled like vanilla and wildflowers. Deepen, hands wandering under damp shirts, tracing the familiar maps of each other's bodies, the constellation of freckles across Elena's collarbone, the taut muscles of Jordan's abs from hauling lumber all day. They made love there on the futon, rain pattering against the fire escape like applause, bodies moving in a rhythm that drowned out the world's cruelty. For those stolen hours, Jordan forgot the ache in her chest, lost herself in the heat of Elena's whispers, "I got you." Always. And the way their fingers intertwined like roots seeking soil. But dawn brought the hangover of reality. Jordan stared at the water-stained ceiling. Elena's arm draped possessively over her waist, snoring softly. The farmhouse wasn't just bricks and mortar. It was her roots. The swing set where she'd skinned her knees. The attic where she'd hidden her first dog-eared copy of The Price of Salt. And Mark? He was the baby brother she'd taught to ride a bike. The one who'd cried on her shoulder when their grandma passed. How could he just take it? She slipped out of bed, padding to the tiny kitchenette, and fired up Elena's ancient percolator. Coffee gurgled like her churning thoughts. By the time Elena stirred, mug in hand, Jordan had scrolled through her phone, voicemails from her mom, texts from cousins, "Pray for you, sis. This too shall pass." Bullshit. "You thinking about going back?" Elena asked, voice husky from sleep, padding over in boy shorts and a tank top that hugged her hips. She wrapped around Jordan from behind, chin on her shoulder, watching the steam rise. Jordan leaned into it, but her nod was reluctant. Just to talk. To Mark? Maybe. He can't seriously think this is right. Elena's sigh was warm against her neck. Be careful. Okay, families like that. They don't change easy. But Jordan was already pulling on her boots, the fire of defiance flickering brighter than fear. The drive back to the farmhouse was a blur of cornfields and cracked asphalt. AM radio preaching fire and brimstone. Mark's truck was parked out front. A shiny new F-150 her dad must have co-signed. Jordan's heart hammered as she knocked, the door creaking open to reveal her brother, tall like their old man, but with her mom's soft blue eyes, now shadowed. "Jordan." Dad said not to. "Let her in." "Son." Their father's voice boomed from the living room, where he sat in his recliner, the TV flickering with some hunting show. Mom hovered in the kitchen doorway, apron twisted in her hands, her blonde bob askew like she hadn't slept. The air was thick with unspoken accusations. Mark shifted, avoiding her gaze, his wedding ring glinting, engaged to that sweet girl from church, Emily. All pearl earrings and potlucks. "Look, G. It's not personal. Dad's will. It's always been this way. The farm needs a man to run it." Jordan's laugh was sharp. "Hollow. A man? That's what this is. I'm your sister. Mark. I fixed your goddamn truck last summer. Bailed you out when you wrecked it drunk." He flinched. But Dad cut in, voice like a judge's gavel. "You made your choices, girl. That lifestyle, it ain't right. The good book says, spare me the sermon." Jordan's voice rose, fists balled. "You think kicking me out fixes your guilty conscience, Mom? You gonna stand there silent?" Her mother's eyes welled, but she turned away, murmuring about dinner. Betrayal hit like a sucker punch. Not just from Dad's righteousness, but Mark's complicity. His eager nod when the will was read that morning. He'd known. All of them had. The room spun. And Jordan bolted. The screen door slamming again. This time on her own fury. Back at Elena's, she collapsed into bed. The weight crushing. Elena didn't pry, she just held her, tracing lazy patterns on her arm until sleep came, fitful and dream-haunted by porch swings and fireflies. Days blurred into a rhythm, Jordan pounding nails on job sites. Her hammer swings harder. Elena shifts at the yard, leaving her bone-tired but always home with takeout from the Greek place, gyros wrapped in foil, shared over bad reality TV. Their love deepened in the quiet moments. Lazy Sundays tangled in sheets. Elena's fingers combing through Jordan's curls as she read poetry aloud. Audre Lorde. Mostly. Her voice like velvet over steel. Your silence will not protect you, she'd quote. Eyes locking with Jordan's. A challenge and a promise. But the fracture festered. A month in, Jordan's phone buzzed with a text from an old high school friend. Tara, heard about the farm. Your bro's throwing a party to celebrate. You coming? Celebrate. The word burned. She showed Elena, who set her jaw. Don't go. It's a trap. But Jordan couldn't let it go. The pull of what if's too strong. Just to show my face. Prove I'm still standing. The party was in full swing under the harvest moon. Bonfire crackling in the backyard. Pickup trucks circling like wagons. Country tunes blared from a Bluetooth speaker. Luke Bryan crooning about red Solo cups and small-town girls. Mark spotted her first. Beer in hand. Emily on his arm in a sundress that screamed Sunday best. Jordan? Shit. You came. His hug was awkward. Half-hearted. But she played along. Grabbing a beer from the cooler. Faces from her past swirled. Cousins with kids on hips. Aunts pressing potato salad into her hands. Whispers followed. That's the one. You know. But she held her chin high. Laughing too loud at dumb jokes. Then Elena arrived. Uninvited but inevitable. Pulling up in her truck just as the fire popped embers into the night. She'd texted be safe earlier. But worry won out. Heads turned as she strode over. Flannel untucked. That confident sway in her step. Jordan's heart soared, my girl, but the yard went quiet. Eyes narrowing. Mark's grip tightened on his bottle. Who's this? He asked. Voice low. Elena extended a hand. Smile easy. Elena. Jordan's better half. The word hung. Electric. It started small. A cousin's snicker. Dad's shadow in the doorway. Face thunderous. Then Emily. Tipsy and bold. Batted out. You think you can just waltz in here like you belong? This is family business. Elena's eyes flashed. But Jordan stepped between them. She belongs with me. More than any of you right now. The bonfire roared. Casting flickering shadows. And that's when Dad exploded, lunging forward. Finger jabbing. Get that whore off my property. You think this is a joke? You're poison. Jordan. Ruining everything. The shove came from nowhere. Mark's hand on her shoulder. Pushing her toward the gate. Just go. J. Don't make it worse. Betrayal. Raw and ripping. As Elena yanked her back. Voices rising in a cacophony of slurs and sobs. Mom wept in the kitchen window. But no one moved to stop it. Jordan's vision blurred with rage tears. Elena's arms steal around her waist as they back toward the truck. We're done here, Elena growled. And Jordan nodded, the farm shrinking in the rearview like a bad dream. But the real storm hit weeks later. In the quiet betrayal that cut deepest. Tara, the friend who'd texted, showed up at Elena's door one rainy Tuesday, eyes downcast. Jordan. I told Mark about that party. He begged me to get you there so they could talk sense into you. The words landed like ice water. Tara, who'd crashed on Jordan's couch after her own divorce, who'd sworn sisterhood over cheap wine, betrayed for a pat on the back from the family fold. Jordan's laugh was broken glass. You set me up. For what? To save your spot at the picnic table. Tara stammered apologies, but it was too late. The trust shattered, leaving shards in Jordan's chest. That night, alone while Elena worked late, she packed a go-bag, not leaving Elena, but fleeing the ghosts. She drove aimless, ending up at the river's edge, the mommy churning black under sodium lights. What was love worth if it cost her everything? The phone buzzed. Elena. Where are you? Jordan typed back. Need space. Love you. Then silence. The water's rush mocking her isolation. Dawn crept over the river like a hesitant lover, painting the water in bruised purples and golds. Jordan sat on the hood of her borrowed Chevy. Elena had insisted she take it after the farm fiasco, nursing a thermos of gas station coffee that tasted like regret and regret's cheaper cousin, despair. Her phone had gone dark after that last text. Battery dead or will weaker? She couldn't tell. The betrayal from Tara gnawed deeper than her family's rejection. At least Dad's hatred was honest, carved from decades of Sunday school dogma. Tara's? That was cowardice dressed as concern. A knife slipped between ribs by someone who should have had her back. She thought of Elena then. Sharp as a fresh weld, those hazel eyes crinkling at the corners when she teased Jordan about her fancy construction girl muscles. The way her laugh bubbled up during their late-night drives to the drive-in. Windows down. Wind whipping their hair into a shared frenzy. 2 years of building something real. Brick by stolen kiss. And now Jordan was dismantling it with her silence. Get it together, she muttered, slamming the thermos lid. The road back to the apartment felt longer than the Mississippi. Every mile marker a milepost of doubt. Elena was waiting on the fire escape when Jordan pulled up, silhouetted against the laundromat's neon buzz. A cigarette dangling unlit from her fingers, a habit she only picked up when worry won. You scared the shit out of me, she said. Voice rough but relief flooding her features as she dropped down the stairs. No accusations. Just that open-armed pull that Jordan fell into. Burying her face in the crook of Elena's neck. Inhaling motor oil and vanilla. Tara. She sold me out. To Mark. The whole party was a goddamn ambush. Elena's arms tightened. A vice of solidarity. I figured. Called her after you left. Girl folded like a cheap lawn chair. They sank onto the futon. Elena's fingers working knots from Jordan's shoulders like she was untwisting rebar. But that's on her. Baby. Not us. You gonna let one snake poison the well? Jordan pulled back, searching those eyes, steady as the river's current. What if I am? What if loving you means I'm always the outsider? My blood turned on me for it. The room hung heavy. The tick of the wall clock a countdown to fracture. Elena stood, pacing the threadbare rug, her bare feet silent on the linoleum. You think it's easy for me? Abuela disowned me when I came out, called me Diabla and locked the door. I rebuilt from scraps. Jordan. Found my crew at the yard. The bar sisters who don't give a fuck about bloodlines. She knelt then. Hands on Jordan's knees. Voice dropping to that intimate timbre that always unraveled her. But you? You're my scrap turned gold. We don't need their house to build a home. Tears pricked. Hot and unwelcome. But Jordan let them fall. Leaning into the kiss Elena offered, soft at first, then urgent. A balm for the raw edges. They tumbled back. Clothes shedding like old skin. Bodies reconnecting in the familiar dance. Elena's mouth tracing the scar on Jordan's hip from a rogue nail gun. Jordan's hands mapping the dip of Elena's waist. The rise of her breasts. It was worship. This slow and sacred. Breath sinking like heartbeats in a shared chest. Afterward, tangled and spent, Elena whispered dreams into the dark. A fixer-upper in the city. Maybe Cleveland. With a yard for a dog and space for ghosts to fade. But life didn't pause for poetry. Jordan's foreman called the next morning. Layoff notice. The recession biting into housing starts. Sorry, kid. Mark, your brother's got connections now. He's underbidding everyone on farm renos. Salt in the wound. Mark's shadow creeping even here. Elena's shift overtime stretched into doubles. Her checks covering rent but leaving them scraping for groceries. They'd split a frozen pizza. Laughing over bootleg Netflix. But the strain showed, Jordan snapping at small things. Elena retreating into silence. Her welding scars itching under stress. The turning point came in October. Leaves turning the town into a postcard of rust and regret. An invite arrived in the mail, crisp cardstock. Emily's looping script. Baby shower for Mark Jr. All family welcome. Jordan stared at it over breakfast. Cereal soggy in the bowl. They think this erases it? Slap an invite on the eviction and call it square. Elena, nursing her own coffee, set it down with a clink. Go. Not for them, for you. Close the loop. Or it'll fester forever. She went. Alone. The drive a gauntlet of memories. The old oak where she'd carved J+M forever with Mark when they were kids. The farmhouse glowed with strung lights. Balloons bobbing like false cheer. Mom enveloped her in a hug that smelled of Chanel No. 5 and unspoken apologies. Whispering. We miss you. Honey. Dad grunted from his chair. Eyes on the game. But Mark pulled her aside to the barn. Away from the cooing ants. Look. G. I didn't want it like this. His voice was earnest. Boyish even. Fiddling with a hay bale. But Dad's health. The doctors say cancer's back. He needs this legacy. You know? To feel like he did right. Jordan's throat tightened. Cancer. The word she'd buried after the first round. When she'd held Mom's hand through chemo vigils. And me? I'm just collateral. Mark's eyes dropped. Emily's pregnant. We need the stability. You got Elena. That's something. Rage boiled. But beneath it, pity, for the brother who'd traded her for a deed. Shackled to a script he didn't write. Stability? This ain't a fairy tale. Mark. It's a cage. She left before cake. The air crisp with falling leaves. Chest heaving. Back home. Elena was waiting with takeout Thai pad CW. Extra lime. Jordan's favorite. Over plastic forks. She unloaded. The news. The numbness. Elena listened. Then pulled out a crumpled flyer from her pocket. Found this today. Community Center in Toledo, LGBTQ support group. Starts next week. Thought. Maybe we go? Build our own family. Jordan's fingers found Elena's across the table. A lifeline. The group was a revelation. A circle of faces scarred by similar blades. Trans kids disowned in Bible Belt towns. Queer moms fighting custody. Elders who'd buried partners in secret graves. Stories poured out like rain on parched earth. Laughter mingling with tears. There was Riley, a non-binary barista with blue-dyed hair, and a tattoo of Audre Lorde on their forearm, who shared how they turned a eviction into a tiny home commune. Family ain't blood, Riley said. Voice steady. It's the ones who stay when the door slams. Jordan spoke haltingly at first. Voice cracking on the farmhouse porch. The rain-soaked goodbye. Elena squeezed her hand, pride shining in her eyes. By the third meeting, Jordan was facilitating. Her construction-honed confidence channeling into hope. Elena thrived too, volunteering to teach welding workshops for at-risk queer youth. Her hands guiding sparks into art. Their apartment evolved, posters of Marsha P. Johnson on the walls. A shared journal for dreams scribbled in tandem. Love deepened. Not in grand gestures but the everyday Elena's post-shift foot rubs. Jordan's surprise playlists of Shaka Khan blasting from a Bluetooth speaker. Winter clamped down hard. Snow blanketing Ohio like a shroud. Dad's cancer advanced. Whispers reaching Jordan through Mom's tentative texts. He's asking about you. Forgiveness felt like a foreign language. But Elena nudged gently. Not for him, for your peace. The hospital visit was sterile hell. Beeps and bleach. Dad frail in a gown that dwarfed him. His eyes, milky now, met hers without the old fire. Jordan was wrong. Scared. Mostly. Of losing you to a world I didn't understand. The words hung. Apology wrapped in frailty. She didn't absolve. But she stayed, holding his hand as morphine dulled the edges. Mark hovering awkwardly in the corner. He passed in January. The funeral a blur of casseroles and condolences. Mark pulled her aside after. Deed in hand. The will. Dad changed it last week. Half to you. G. Equal. Shock rippled. Betrayal's echo. Why now? Mark shrugged. Tears streaking. Guilt. Maybe. Or love. Late as it is. She took the papers. Not for the land. But the gesture, a crack in the armor. Spring thawed the ground. And with it, possibilities. Jordan and Elena pooled savings. Buying a fixer-upper on Toledo's east side. A shotgun shack with creaky floors and a yard choked with weeds. Weekends became their cathedral. Hammering joists side by side. Elena's weld ceiling beams. Jordan's plans sketched on napkins. The first night in the half-finished space. Paint splattered and triumphant. They christened the bedroom with laughter and lovemaking. Windows open to the budding dogwoods. But the real climax brewed in summer's heat. A storm neither saw coming. Tara resurfaced. Clean from a 12-step program. Eyes clear but haunted. I need to make amends, she said over coffee at the diner. Voice trembling. What I did. It was fear. Mark promised he'd talk sense. But I knew it'd hurt you. Jordan's jaw set. Old wounds itching. Amends don't erase scars. Tara. Yet Elena. Ever the bridge builder. Leaned in. What if it's a start? We all fuck up. The reconciliation was tentative. A group hang at the community center. Beers and board games. Laughter tentative but real. Tara's stories cracked open her own pains. A queer awakening buried under straight-passing pretense. The farm's shadow longed for her too. Forgiveness didn't flood in. It trickled, watering the dry places. Mark visited once. Emily in tow. Toddler on hip. Awkward small talk over the half-built porch. But his hug lingered. Proud of you, sis. A seed planted. By fall, the house stood proud. Blue shutters. A rainbow flag fluttering from the stoop. Jordan proposed on the swing they'd hung. Not with a ring, but a custom weld from Elena. 2 interlocking gears etched with always. Marry me. Elena's yes was a whoop, pulling her into a spin under the harvest moon. Their wedding was a potluck affair at the center, Riley officiating in a thrift tux. Aunts from both sides mingling uneasily but showing. Mom dabbing tears with a lace hanky. Years folded forward. The farm sold. Proceeds funding a queer youth shelter in Dad's name. A humanistic twist. Turning rejection to refuge. Mark and Emily visited for holidays. Boundaries firm but bridges mended. Jordan and Elena adopted a scrappy mutt named Audrey. Her barks echoing through rooms filled with laughter. Love, turned out, wasn't a house or bloodline. It was the choice to stay. To build from ruins. To love fiercely in a world that often slammed doors. In the quiet evenings, Jordan would trace Elena's scars, whispering gratitude. You saved me. Elena's smile, that vanilla-sweet curve, would light the dusk. Nah, baby. We saved each other. The ink on the shelter's deed was barely dry when the first storm hit, not the literal kind that rattled Ohio's eaves, but the human variety, the one that tests welds and whispers doubts in the dead of night. It started with a letter, slipped under their door like an unsigned threat. You think this erases what you did? Perverts don't get redemption. No signature. But the postmark screamed farmhouse, Mark's zip. Or maybe a cousin's grudge festering. Jordan found it while Elena was at the yard. The paper crumpling in her fist as paranoia bloomed. Was the olive branch rotten? Had forgiveness been a fool's gamble? She didn't tell Elena at first, didn't want to dim that glow. The way her wife's eyes sparkled over blueprints for the shelter's community garden. But secrets are termites. Gnawing quiet. By week's end, Elena cornered her in the kitchen. Arms crossed over her welder's apron. What's eating you? G? You've been swinging that hammer like it's personal. Jordan caved. The letter tumbling from her pocket like a confession. Elena's face hardened. Hazel eyes storming. This is bullshit. We call the cops. But Jordan shook her head. The fighter in her stirring. No. We rise above. That's the point, showing him love wins. They doubled down. Ribbon cutting for the shelter. A sunny Saturday in June. Balloons bobbing against a sky bluer than Elena's faded jeans. Riley emceed. Voice booming through a megaphone. Welcome to Haven House, named for the safe space it provides. But hell, also for the haven we all deserve. Faces crowded the lawn. Queer kids from the group. Wide-eyed and tentative. Toledo's mayor. All smiles for the cameras, even Mom. Clutching a Tupperware of deviled eggs. Her presence a quiet victory. Mark showed too. Emily wrangling their now 4-year-old. Who toddled over to Audrey with sticky fingers and giggles. The speeches flowed, Jordan's raw. Thanking Dad's memory for the land that funded this. Elena's fierce. Quoting Lord on the power of the erotic as community glue. Laughter rippled. Toasts clinked with lemonade and craft beer. But as dusk fell, lanterns flickering like fireflies, a shadow detached from the tree line, Tara, uninvited, eyes red-rimmed. Heard about today. Had to come. Jordan tensed. Old scars itching. But Elena's hand on her elbow steadied. Amends in action? Tara nodded, handing over a check modest, but from her new gig as a counselor. For the kids. And I'm sorry. Again. For real this time. The moment stretched. Fragile as spun glass. Jordan took the check. Not quite a hug, but a nod. Progress. Inch by inch. Later. Under the stars. Elena pulled her onto the new porch swing, creaking gently. Proud of you. Gearhead. Their kiss tasted of possibility. Hands linking as Audrey snored at their feet. But the letter's echo lingered. A low hum of unease. Fall brought bounty. The garden's first harvest. Tomatoes fat and red as Elena's lipstick. Shared at potlucks where stories swap like recipes. Jordan mentored a teen named Kai. 17 and freshly out. Bunking at the shelter after his folks' ultimatum. Feels like you with the farm, Kai said one evening. Shelling peas on the back stoop. Jordan chuckled. But it stung. Yeah. But look at me now. Built this with my girl. You can too. Elena watched from the kitchen window. Pride swelling her chest. That's my Jordan. Turning pain to purpose. Winter whispered warnings. Though. Another letter arrived. This one typed. Burn it down before it spreads your sin. Elena's temper flared. She marched to the station, filing a report. But the cops shrugged. Hate mail's free speech. Ma'am. Paranoia peaked when tires screeched past the house at midnight. Headlights blinding. Jordan bolted up. Heart pounding. Elena grabbing the bat from under the bed. False alarm, a drunk joyride, but sleep fled. Replaced by vigils. The climax crashed in March. A Friday night gale howling off the lake. The shelter's alarm shrieked at 2 a.m. Fire. Someone yelling into the phone as Jordan and Elena threw on coats. Tires spinning on ice to get there. Flames licked the east wing. Acrid smoke billowing. Sirens wailing in the distance. Kids spilled out in pajamas. Riley herding them to the yard. Faces streaked with soot. Jordan dove into the fray. Elena at her side, smashing a window to vent smoke. Dragging singed blankets from the dorm. Kai. Where's Kai? Panic clawed. The boy had been brooding. Letters from home twisting his resolve. There in the smoke-choked hall. Coughing. Clutching a photo of his little sister. Jordan scooped him up. Elena clearing the path. Their hands brushing in the chaos like a vow renewed. Outside. Wrapped in mylar blankets. The group huddled as firefighters doused the blaze. Arson. The chief confirmed later. Molotov through the rec room window. Rags soaked in farm-grade diesel. And the match? A print on the bottle led to Cousin Dale. Dad's sister's boy. Bible in his truck. Confession spilling under questioning. Had to stop the filth. For Uncle Ray. The arrest hit the local paper. Arson at new queer shelter. Family ties severed, stirring the pot. Mark called the next day. Voice shattered. Dale's unhinged. G. Lost his job. Wife's left him. But this. I'm sorry. For all of it. Jordan. Bandaged from a splinter gash. Cradled the phone in the hospital waiting room. Elena dozing beside her. Hand in hers. Family's a choice. Mark. You chose. Choose again. He did, testifying against Dale. Donating his half of the farm remnants to rebuild. Spring rose from ashes. Literal and not. The shelter reopened bigger. Solar panels glinting on the new roof, Elena's design. Jordan's build. Fundraisers poured in. National news clipping the story. From disownment to dedication, lesbian couples triumph. Tara organized a queer art auction. Her immense canvas now a mural on the wall, women entwined in vines. Fierce and free. Mom visited weekly. Reading to the kids. Her Bible swapped for Heather has 2 mommies. Even Emily baked pies. The toddler now calling Jordan Auntie J, smearing frosting on Audrey's nose. Through it all, Elena and Jordan anchored each other. Anniversaries marked with tattoos, matching gears on wrists, interlocking forever. Vacation stolen, a road trip to the Smokies, tent pitched under stars, bodies warm against mountain chill. Remember the farm? Elena murmured one night, fingers tracing Jordan's jaw. Thought that was the end. Jordan smiled, pulling her closer. Nah. That was the spark. Years layered like good soil. Kai graduated. Off to art school with a scholarship. Hugging them fierce at the send-off. The shelter expanded. Chapters in Detroit, Cleveland, Haven houses blooming. Jordan wrote a memoir. Porch swing exiles. Raw pages of hooks and heartbreaks. Hitting bestseller lists with a foreword by Riley. Elena illustrated the cover. 2 women silhouetted against a burning house. Rising from embers hand in hand. Old age crept gentle. Silver threading Jordan's curls. Laugh lines etching Elena's eyes. They retired to a lakeside cabin. Audrey long buried under the dogwood, but her spirit in every sunset walk. Grandkids queer chosen. Blood mixed. Filled summers with chaos and cuddles. Mark's line blending with theirs in a tapestry of what-ifs woven real. On their 50th. Swing creaking on the cabin porch. Elena leaned in. Breath feathering Jordan's ear. Still my miracle? Jordan's hand found hers. Gears clicking soft. Always. Mi amor. We built this. The lake whispered agreement. A humanistic hymn. Love not despite the storms, but through them roots deep. Branches wide. A legacy no door could slam shut.